Today's lesson is on the KX1 RTI's in-wall single-room control solution. The KX1 has the ability to output on a status display 3 lines of text plus the source name. So you can program the 3 lines of text to be text feedback or regular text. On the last line, you can program that to be a graph or a bar graph, such as a treble, bass, or even song progress indicator. We'll show you how to do that in the training. Other than that, you have a ambient sensor light directly below the status screen and a select music button which allows you to toggle through the sources that you've set up on the KX1. It is very important that you only set up sources and pages for devices you're going to control. Otherwise, you'll be toggling through source devices that you don't necessarily need. Of course, you have a complement of hard buttons as well, including a volume up and down with built-in volume feedback indicator if programmed to do so. You also have an on and off button to turn the zone on and off if you're using audio distribution device such as the 84X or 8X or 16X. The unit can also be controlled using RS-485, and if you want to sync the device over the network, plugging in an Ethernet cable is the best method of control. Let's go on and show you how to program this keypad. I'm going to call up Apex, and just so you know, this tutorial assumes you have a working knowledge of Apex. Let's start by creating a new file. We're going to call this KX1 client project. And our first step in the project is to add a control processor. We'll add an XP6S. Next, we're going to add a room that the KX1 is controlling. So I'm going to add the family room, which the KX1 resides in. Just for effect, I'm going to add 3 other rooms, since we're going to pretend to program a 4-room single with a single room solution. So let's add the 4 rooms. We'll add a kitchen, dining room, and a bedroom. We'll only be concerned with the family room. Next, we're going to move on to controllers. Now, you may have lots of controllers in your system, but we'll only be focusing on the KX1. So I'm going to select the KX1, and I'm going to select the family room where it belongs in. Remember, the KX1 is a single room solution. If you try to use it outside that sandbox, you might not have favorable results. It's always best to use it in a single room scenario. So I'm going to add that to the family room, and I'm going to call it KX1 family room. And I'm not going to create a home page on the KX1. As I indicated earlier, you only want to create sources and pages for sources you want to toggle through for activities. So you're only going to want to create activities for us and pages for music-based options, or if you just want to listen to a cable box or something. So I'm going to uncheck the home page, and I'm going to add the KX1. Once we've added that, we're ready to add our source devices that are controlling music. Now I'm going to add 3 different sources: RTI Music, Sonos, and HEOS. I'm only going to add 1 stream from each, just to show you how it works. If you could program 1 stream, you can program as many as you need. So let's move on to the driver tab. I'm going to start with RTI Music. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for RTI Music. Now, since this is the driver that adds the server initially and then discovers the players, I'm going to add this to global and click next. I'm going to uncheck the page for the server. We don't need a page for the server. We only need a page for the individual players that are now discovered. Add device, and you'll get a message saying that the software found a single device, which is the MS3, which consists of 3 players. It now adds those 3 players to the existing driver, so we can add them to the specific areas we want to control them in. I'm going to put player 1 in the global area. Click next. And I'm going to uncheck Set as Room Audio Source. We're going to be adding an 8064 driver since we have an audio distribution 84X in the mix. So I'm going to uncheck this. And I'll leave the player name as is. The player changing the names here isn't as important as other systems because you get to control the name of the source on the screen. In other words, the name of the source that appears on top here, you can control. So I'm going to add this player and I'm going to create a page. And now I'm ready to go and add a Sonos player. So I'm going to look for the Sonos driver. I'm going to add player 1 to the global area since it's a shared device. Click Next. Uncheck Set as Room Audio Source. And I'll leave the name as player 1 with a page created. Next, I'm going to go to the HEOS driver and add player 1 to global as well. Same drill, uncheck the audio source, make sure you create a page, and you can leave the name as is. We can change the name on the device later on in another step. And we'll click Add Device. So now we've added 3 sources. Of course, you might have more streams and you would just add your player 2, 3, 4, and so on to the global area or whatever room if it's confined to a single room, however it works in your system. Now let's add the 8064 driver since I have an 84X. So I'm going to look for 8064. I'm going to open up the caret here and I'm going to add zone 1 to the family room. Click Next. Make sure you set this as the room's audio source so you'll have volume capability on your sources going off the zone 1 on the 84X. Since I don't want a page for all 4 zones that I'm going to add, I'm going to uncheck the top part here, which will remember my selection for the next 3 sources I add. And we'll click Add Device. Now we'll add zone 2 to the kitchen, and we'll make it that room's audio source, and notice the page is unchecked, as it should be. Zone 3 to the dining room, and zone 4 to the bedroom. We're not going to deal with those zones. This is just for effect to show you how to build a 4-room solution. Once you're done adding those devices, click Close. Now you're going to go and configure the properties in the tree. I'm going to go through this rather quickly. And you would go to the XP6S and program the properties here. RTI music doesn't have to be configured because it's automatically discovered. For Sonos, you'll just change the name of the player. And we'll call this Sonos, and you'll enter in the serial number of your Sonos. For HEOS, we'll go to the driver properties. You'll enter in your username and password. We'll give player 1 a friendly name. We'll just call this HEOS player, and we'll use that as a control point. Okay, next we'll go on to our 8064 driver, and we'll program the properties for this. So we're going to change this to 84X. We'll enter in an IP address, which we'll omit for now. Under sources, we're going to do 3 sources, and we're going to call them as is. RTI Music, Sonos, and HEOS. Of course, you might have more sources, so you'll add them accordingly. Under zones, we're going to change the count from 8 to 4, and we'll name our zones. Family room, kitchen, dining room, and bedroom. Again, just for effect. Once we're done with that, we're ready to configure the KX1 controller. Now the properties on the KX1 are particularly important because they are responsible for some of the control interface. So let's click on the KX1. We're going to go to the properties. Now you might want to adjust the screensaver. So after 10 seconds it will show the screensaver when it's not touched. I'm going to add maybe a couple of seconds here and make it 30 seconds. Well, you'll do what you like. You also might want to change the backlight depending on the conditions in the room. Now the output tab is really important here because you're going to tell the unit how it's being controlled. You might be using Ethernet or you might be using RS-485. It doesn't matter. no matter what you use, you'll still get feedback since it's only text-based feedback. If you're using cover art, then there could be issues, but two-way transport RS-485 is fine. Under bar graph, this is going to determine on the unit itself where to get this feedback when you press these buttons up and down. Now you can program them for virtually anything, but volume makes the most sense. So I'm going to go to my volume here. I'm going to go to my drivers, and I'm going to look for my zone 1 on the 8064 driver. And I'm going to go off the family room volume. It'll fill in the ranges so you don't have to worry about that. And don't tamper with the ranges because these are preset in the driver. So that's pretty much it. Now at least that button will show feedback of the volume. And we'll click OK. Now we're ready to program our source devices. This is really simple. Let's start with the RTI Music Player. Here's our page for the KX1. So I'm going to click the source and I'm going to click the page. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is change this page name. This is the page name, not the source name. But whatever you change this to will show up on the unit. So I'm going to call this RTI Music and click OK. Now it'll show RTI Music on the top here. Okay. Now all the buttons for the most part, or most of them, have been auto-programmed. Since we've set the room audio source for the family room and we added the 8064 driver, it has the volume commands and the feedback was automatically programmed into the unit itself. So that'll work fine. The unit has 11 hard buttons, so all of our transport functions are programmed. However, we will program the on and off function. Let's program the on and off to turn on the zone and select the source. So let's turn on, or let's just turn on the zone. So let's turn on the zone. We'll create a room macro so it'll work across the board on all of our sources. So let's go and create a room macro using the family room zone commands. So let's power on for the on, and we'll select family room. And for the off, again, room macro, we will power off the family room. So now the client can go up to this and turn on and off the zone if you'd like. You could also add other steps like pause the players if they're playing and stuff like that, but that's up to you. Now you're going to add a source icon. So I'm going to go to my bitmaps. Now you only really can add smaller bitmaps, black or white. So I'm going to add a simple icon here for RTI Music. And we're going to now program the feedback on top. So since this can be programmed for regular text, I could just enter in regular text here, and you could feed that back, or you could enter in a variable which will report feedback. Let's enter a text tag in for NP title. That's the standard tag to show the now playing title of the song that's playing. Click OK, and it will fill in a little preview text for you so you kind of see what it looks like. On the next line, we're going to insert another text tag, and this one's going to be NP artist. We're going to click OK. I put an underscore in there. It should not have an underscore. Okay, and now I'm going to put in this bottom one. Now this bottom one is configured to do both text-based feedback, or a bar graph. So for example, if that feedback was sufficient enough for you, you could put a bar graph in here. And what you could do is you could put in a tag on the bottom here, a standard tag like NP progress, which will auto-program the song's progress. As you can see, it populated a variable, player one progress percentage. So you'll see a little line graph go according to when the music begins and ends. Pretty cool effect. It's up to you if you want to do that, or you can do some more feedback if you'd like. Or you could enter in the text here. Instead of doing a bar graph, you could enter in regular text or text feedback, but you can type in just something like RTI Music, so you know what source you're on. It's up to you. You can do any of that. So we'll leave it like that for now, but you know, the bar graph works well too. Let's move on to, one more thing, the most important thing. Now you have to program, since this select music is going to toggle through your sources, as you're toggling through your sources, it's going to fire whatever macro is on this button for each source. So each of these sources has the select music button, and you'll program it differently. In this case, I'm just going to drag my tag over for the Player 1 RTI music and pop it onto that button. Now I can program a room macro here to do anything I want. Maybe you want to autoplay your player or something like that. So you can go to the RTI music and you can go to your transport functions and you can just play your player 1 automatically. It's up to you if you want to do that, but you can. You'll also want to source select the 8064. So source select, family room, RTI music. So those are just some options available. You do have to source select the 84X to make sure it turns on, and if it's off, and selects RTI music in the family room at least. All right. After you're done with that, you're pretty much done programming this source. So let's move on to the next one, the Sonos. Again, let's edit this page title. We don't want it to say Player 1 Sonos in brackets on the header page. We just want it to say Sonos. And we're going up here and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this one, NP title. We're going to call this one NP artist. And this one will be called NP album. Make sure you enter a text tag or it's not going to work. Okay. Next, we don't have to program the on and off. Those are already done for us. So let's drag the tag over for Player 1 Sonos. This will automatically jump to the Sonos, by the way. Program a room macro here. And we'll go to the 8064X and we'll do a source select. And we'll select family room, Sonos. Next, we'll add a source icon, which is optional, but something you can do. Okay, so that's what shows up when you go to a screensaver if you're stuck on Sonos. Pretty cool effect. Simple as that. Let's move on to HEOS. HEOS, edit the page title, call that HEOS. Now we're going to change the select music, so let's drop the tag over for the HEOS, Player 1 HEOS, drop it over. And now we're going to program this to turn on the zone and select the source. By using source select, it'll automatically turn on the 84X zone if it's off. And we'll select HEOS here. Next, we'll add a source icon. I don't have one for HEOS right now, so I'll just add this one again, but you kind of get the idea. Next, we'll add some text, so same drill. We can, do the artist title album thing, or whatever is available. Let's do something a little different. Let's do NP title, and then we'll separate it. We'll put another text tag in here, NP artist. Let's see if we'll get away with it on one line. You might have cutoff here and there. So if you do have cutoff, then you'll have to live with that. But we're going to put that all on one line. Next, we're going to put on this line something a little different. Let's go to our text tags and see what else is available for us. So we have cover, progress. Let's, on the second line, do the, let's just do the album. So I'm just going to do NP album here. And then on this line, we're going to do the progress for the song. So I'm going to enter in progress. Oh, NP progress. Sorry, now playing. Okay, and it should program. Now, if it doesn't auto-program it, that means that there isn't a correlation to the tag set up in our cross-reference library, so you can enter it yourself. You could just go to the value here, find the HEOS, and you can find the HEOS now playing progress bar and program it manually. You can also use other options as well. Not sure what else is available that makes sense to use, but any kind of bar graph you can find in here, you can use as feedback, or any feedback for that matter. And that's pretty much it. Once you're done with that, you're ready to go. Load up your file and send to your devices. It's that simple. Now, if you have a processor on the network, you want to select USB and navigate to your processor. Now with the KX1, if you only have one Cat5 going to it for RS-485, you won't be able to do it over internet, so you'll have to plug a USB cable in. But that's as simple as it gets. It's really simple to program. It's a cool little powerful interface, and you can use it to do pretty much some limited control. Obviously, it's not going to have 1,000 control options, but that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to just have a simple way of turning on the music in a room and having some basic transport control and being able to see what's playing or any other kind of feedback they need. That's it. So if you have any questions, contact the dealer experience at rticorp.com. Thanks.